can we sustain this power seeing that man is falling? You know, there's a seductive tendency of spirits. When they come to you, what they do is that they bring their energy to manipulate your thought patterns. And they manipulate you until you become their slave and you begin to build that which is in their heart. That's what we call the lust. The lust that is in man is a function of the spirit of the world. The spirit of the world is a master architect of building the civilization of the world system. But the way he has to achieve it is to get into man so that man becomes his foot soldier. And the only way he can get man to be a slave that builds what he intends is to introduce is to take advantage of the lost nature that is in the man. And the moment the man learns to or leans on that lost nature, he becomes a puppet in the hands of the spirit of this world. And the spirit of this world will architect his intelligence in the academia, in the business world, everywhere. Men working to fulfill the mandate of spirit. How do we come back to God in order to build what is in the heart of the Father? Because when he came, his first project was building. He built a garden. He called it Eden. And he expected the man to advance Eden to every part of the world. How do you go back to that project? Because if you don't go back to that project, your life was a waste. He said, him that liveth for pleasure is dead while he walketh. What it means is that that person is not living by the frequency of lust. So what he desires is what he does. And every time the spirit wants him to become a co-architect of building a dimension that is consistent with his nature, it will lean on his lust. And then as he leans on his lust, the man begins to walk. And he said, so long as you walk by the dictates of lust, you are dead even while you walk. So how do we come alive? Is to begin to align with God and build what he was building, which was before the foundation of the world. How do we architect this new civilization? Is to pluck lust out of our spirit. Is to lock the gate of the heart. Because Adam was the first architect of God. When God built the garden, he gave Adam the blueprint and he asked him to continue. The Bible said in Genesis 2:19, every name Adam called the animal, that was the name that was in the chronicles of God. So Adam had tapped into God's frequency, building what God was building. In Genesis chapter 2 from verse 21, he said God cast a deep sleep on the man because God wanted to hide the blueprint of creating the woman so that the man may not wake up and say, I don't like this one, and create another one. You know, the Bible says you were fearfully and wonderfully made. Who was there when you were made? It's God. So God himself is careful of you because there are certain knowledge that if he unlocks, there will be a challenge. Did you not read Isaiah chapter 14 verse 12 to 14? In Job 38 verse 7, he said when he laid the foundations of the earth, he said the sons of God were there, they sang. He exposed them to so much knowledge until Lucifer felt he could be like God. And he said, we are sent. So God was careful. Knowing the possibilities that you have, being like himself, he decided to cast a deep sleep on the man before he began to bring the DNA of the woman together. But even at that, when the man woke up, he surprised God. Because even when I'm sleeping, my spirit is awake. The name God called what he created was woman. The man woke up and said, you shall be called woman. I know God was like, who told you? He's an architect. You shall be called woman because you were taken out of the man. How did you know? The guy was a supervisor of the universe. You were taken out of the woman. So you shall be called bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. God became more careful. This man will wake up one day and create another heaven. In order to keep the man as God's partner, God now provided laws. Laws are not meant to enslave man. They are actually the weapons of man in the spirit. Because what the man did not realize was that there was another spirit trying to bring another civilization. So when God said, don't touch the tree in the middle of the garden, he was not just trying to put the man into slavery. He was giving the man authority to rule over the dark princes that wanted to enter the visible universe. So the law was the man's weapon. This is why every time a man becomes lawless, he becomes helpless. Every time a man becomes lawless, he becomes powerless. Because laws don't enslave, laws empower. The moment you violate the provisions of a law, you become a slave of a spirit. The man did not know that his greatest weapon in Eden was his obedience to God. He thought because he had access into the blueprint of the universe, he could do whatever he wanted. He didn't know there were other spirits that were more experienced than him in the business of the presence. Because Lucifer was one of the seraphims that moved to and fro in the midst of the coast of fire. He's more experienced than Adam. Adam did not grow into sonship. Adam was born a son. So he didn't have the level of experience that Lucifer had. And in order to give him an advantage, being that he was weaker than Lucifer in kingdom legislation, God gave him a law that was his weapon against Lucifer. But he was not wise. When he violated the law, another spirit entered the universe. And instantly, he began to build according to a different pattern, which is not consistent with that which was shown on the mount. So the way to begin to establish kingdom again is to lock the gates of your heart. Because if those gates are open, the devil will rule you. Too many gates are open. That's why the white beast enter and devour. When the gates are locked, the job of kingdom can begin. The gates are open. They are open. That's why you decree things, they don't happen. The gates are open. Because among men, you can speak with a tongue of eloquence. But when you speak in the spirit, they check your authority. By what authority do you speak? Your gate is already open to the prince of immorality. Who told you you can cast out a demon of fornication? How do you do it? Gates are open. So the first thing this conference will do for us is to help us to lock the gates. The gates that were open, that allowed violation of the integrity of our spirit. The waters of our spiritual DNA has been corrupt because too many spirits have altered their oracles and they have distorted the vibrations of our spirit. That's why we talk, nothing happens. The gates must be locked. The moment the gates open, you are vulnerable. You may be building, thinking you are building another thing. Many people started ministry right. They were following God, but they didn't lock the gate until a point come when they entered the realm of 100 million. They didn't know that the realm of 100 million had a gatekeeper. God told us to raise a prayer ministry until they entered the realm of 1 billion. And when the prince of 1 billion came, he bargained with him. I will give you 1 billion. But this thing will not just be prayer anymore. You have to bring some form of excellence inside. Our father told us how when certain gates began to open, they now told him, don't call demon. Meanwhile, part of the cardinal blueprint of the ministry is to cast out devils. So if you want to enter that realm without a process of Elohim, and you accept that access at that time, you will begin to alter the blueprint of what was given to you. And in the days to come, you will realize the authority you have in the heavens will be lost. Because when Adam opened the gate, God showed up. He said, Adam, where art thou? God is omniscient. He knows all things. When he said, where art thou? He was not asking where he was. The question was, I checked on your throne. You are no longer sitting among the princes in the galaxies of God. The princes that rule in my realm, I can't find you on your throne. Where are you? That's why it's called the fall. He was still in the garden, but he had fallen from the place of authority. The ranking system of Zion could no longer access him. He was lost. And God came. When he entered that womb of Koinonia, he couldn't sense the energy of Adam. Where are you? The man had fraternized with another spirit. His gate had opened, so he could no longer legislate the counsel of God from the heights of the heavens. This is why people die in our families. Because there are no gatekeepers. This is why people are frustrated. There are no gatekeepers. This is why destinies are lost. There are no gatekeepers. The moment the gate becomes porous, you become a slave of another spirit. Because spirits are they are masters in seduction. They will woo you. They will woo you until you fall from your throne. And you will still have a title on earth. But in heaven you are falling. What are the gates that we keep? I'm not talking about the gate over the spiritual atmosphere of Ghana. That one, it's an inheritance that God gives to you when you rise in stature. I will show you from scriptures. All of us can come and pray for Ghana. There are few gatekeepers over Ghana. That's why God was going to destroy Sodom. He came to Abraham. Lot was in Sodom, but God didn't go to Lot. You can be in Lot, you are not the gatekeeper of you can be in Sodom, you are not the gatekeeper of Sodom. You can be in Ghana, the gatekeeper of Ghana can be in Holland. Because that one is an inheritance. God came to Abraham, and Abraham was negotiating the destiny of Sodom. Lot was in Sodom, he was a righteous man. It's not enough to be righteous. To be a gatekeeper, you must grow in stature. Hey, yeah. Do you see why we press in God? There are certain things that are inherited. And I will show you before I round up that ministry doesn't end in time. Time is a training ground. It's in heaven that you will see the true apostles. Because an apostle is not just a custodian of kingdom. An apostle will be a messenger in the age to come. I will show you. I will show you that a prophet is not just a keeper of righteousness. In the ages to come, a prophet will be part of the galactic council to determine the fate of the next creation. You don't know. He said, no man take this honor upon himself. He's not talking about the honorarium and the jeeps that carry you to a meeting. God doesn't take pleasure in mundane things. When he talks about honor, he's talking about places with Christ. James, the mother of James and John, came to him, said they should sit by his left and right. He said, no, that one is not given out of my benevolence. It is earned. That's the honor of the kingdom. The nature of throne that a man will ascend when this world is over. That's why we press. That's why we keep the burden of faithfulness. Because there is something beyond time. But when I speak of the gate, I'm not talking first about the gate over the spiritual atmosphere of Ghana. I'm talking about the gate of your heart. That's the first place the journey begins from. Your heart is open. Too many spirits can manipulate you, and you don't have a stand. Everywhere your emotions carry you, that's where you go. You can't amount to much in the kingdom. You become strong in the kingdom when you can lock your heart from another spirit. Only the Spirit of God can manipulate you. That's the first assignment of gatekeeping. Before we talk about spiritual territories over cities. In Songs of Solomon chapter 1 verse 6, he said, look not upon me because I'm black. The sun have looked upon me. Because my heart was exposed, I entered the territory and a spirit alighted upon me. I came into the campus a virgin, but my gate was open. So a spirit alighted upon me. I came as a prophet. My gate was open. A spirit alighted upon me. And before you left the campus, you prophesy when they give you money. It wasn't so, but the spirit has come. So you have been darkened. A gate that is kept is a soul that lives in the experience of koinonia. The moment fellowship is lost, gate have been opened. That's why you begin to struggle with prayer. That's why you begin to struggle with the word. Because when fellowship is lost, the gate has opened. Another spirit has come. Because prayer, meditation on the word of God, they are not spiritual acts. They are not religious acts. They are actually gateways into koinonia. So when the delight for these things are lost, it means we are beginning to have koinonia with another spirit. When God was your first love, you were lost in prayer. You could pray all day, you were not exhausted. But when another spirit comes, you begin to share your attention with that spirit. And the more the energy of that spirit enters your soul, the weaker you become in your participation with God.